Do you ever feel like you're stuck in a loop? Like every day you get up and you do the same thing over and over and over and over again, and nothing ever changes. And you know in your head that you've got to do something to break that cycle, and you know that intellectually, but like emotionally, when you're in that moment, it's incredibly hard to know what it is you can do to actually change your circumstances. Now, I'm very lucky that right now I get to get up each morning and choose what it is that's going to fulfill me on that day. Choose the thing that I think is going to be most impactful that day. I get to make content, I get to make videos, I get to make things that fulfill me creatively and hopefully have an impact on people like you. But it hasn't always been like this. In my last job, my last full-time job, I allowed the people who I worked with at that company to affect me for such a long period of time that by the end of my time there, I didn't think I had any value to add to anyone. Now, I'm not some underpaid, undervalued employee that's angry at the management. I was part of the management. I was probably significantly overpaid for what I did, and I completely understood the inner workings of that business. But it doesn't change the emotional impact that working there had on me. Every single day, I would get up and I would dread opening my computer and logging on to start my day. And I knew something had to change, but I just had lost all confidence in the ability to change that. I didn't want to look for other jobs because I was so comfortable where I was in terms of better the evil you know than the evil you don't, that kind of scenario. When I was looking at jobs, I'd lost all confidence to know whether I could actually achieve those things. I thought I had got into a space where I didn't have the skills to be able to be impactful for another company. And for a long, long time, I would speak to some of my friends about this, and I knew I had to get out, but the money, the comfort, the familiarity, all of those things were like a cage that kept me in the same place, doing the same thing over and over again for far too long. Now, my whole time there I wasn't unhappy, but there was definitely at least 2 years where I just didn't want to be there anymore. And I just didn't know what to do to break that cycle, because you know intellectually in your mind that you need to do something, but I just could not bring myself to do anything until the point that they made the decision for me and made me redundant. And so the cycle was broken. And there's no instant fix to this stuff, right? You definitely have to work at it, and those patterns of behaviour still stick with you even when you stop working for someone else. And what becomes much more difficult is you've got no one else to blame now. I've only got myself to blame if things aren't getting done. I've only got myself to blame if things aren't working. I'm in complete control, and there's some beauty in that, there's some excitement in that, but there's also pressure in that. But this is an exciting time for me, and I'm super happy to be doing what I'm doing, but it does bring me to think about storytelling, and specifically the stories that I tell myself about whether I'm good enough to do something, whether I'm skilled enough to do something, whether I've got the ability to learn something new. And the truth about all those stories is they're all mostly just bollocks, right? You just tell yourself whatever you want to tell yourself. It's just up to you whether you choose you want to believe that. So for the most part, I try to tell myself that I am capable and that I can do these things, that I can tell stories. And part of the difficulty with this employment is that the majority of the time I'm sat on my own, pointing a camera at my own face. And even when I'm on stream talking, you know, I'm still sat on my own. There's interaction there, and that's a great part of what I do. But you're still on your own for the most part. And because you're on your own most of the time, sometimes it can feel like you're screaming into a void. It's often very, very difficult to tell whether your work is impactful, good, or whether people are even enjoying it. With these videos, for example, I never really know whether they're going to be interesting to watch. I never know whether the editing is going to be good. I never know whether the storytelling is going to be good. There's always elements of it that I'm not sure of because I'm learning so much of this as I go. But then every now and then there'll be a little glimmer of hope, and someone will say something to you that just encourages you to keep pushing forward. Now I always look at other creators and go, I wish my lighting looked like that. I wish my shooting looked like that. I wish my editing looked like that. And then weirdly, someone the other day said to me, I wish I could do what you do with your vlogs. And it just changed my whole perspective on it, because I was like, oh, I'm constantly comparing myself to other people without really thinking that maybe some people wish they could do what I'm doing now. Obviously they can, anyone can do anything they want to do, but this comparison to other people is a dangerous thing and constantly leaves you in a position where you're feeling less than. And sometimes I have to look back and remind myself of why I started doing this, why I started creating content, why I started streaming. It wasn't to get views, it wasn't to get compliments, it wasn't to get money, it wasn't to get any of these things that I so often look to as a measure of success now. It was to be creatively fulfilled and to do things that I love doing and to make things that I loved making. If people like that stuff, if it resonates with people, if it has an impact on people, that is absolutely phenomenal. And that is a great little Brucey bonus. If I make money off it, great little Brucey bonus. These are all things that help, but they are not the end goal. They are not the purpose. The reason I do these things is so I feel fulfilled creatively. The reason I make these right now is really just to document what it felt like to start creating content full time and how I ended up in the position that I was. And hopefully at some point along the line, the lessons that I'm learning now will help other people. They won't have to go through the same thing. So I'm gonna keep making stuff. I'm gonna keep being creative. I'm gonna keep making these, even if some of them are bad. I mean, I hope they're not, I hope they're good, but if they're bad, if they're good, no matter what, I'm gonna keep making stuff, because with every single video, as long as I get a little bit better, I'll be happy. See you on the next one.